They love you. They want you. They choose you. And yet, when you finally offer them the one thing they've been searching for their whole life, something in them pulls back. Safety, warmth, consistency, security, the very things you think would melt their walls, only seem to make them freeze harder. And you wonder, why? Why would someone run from the very thing they claim to need? Why would someone tremble when they're finally held with steady hands? This is the hidden reality of the avoidant. They don't feel safe, even in the safest relationships. Not because love isn't real, not because your efforts don't matter, but because their nervous system doesn't recognize safety as safety. It recognizes safety as risk, as exposure, as something dangerous. They were taught long ago, could not be trusted. When you show up for them, something powerful happens inside their body. Your consistency presses against their fragility. Your devotion presses against their doubt. And the closer you get, the louder the alarms ring. They think, what if this person leaves? What if they see the real me and change their mind? What if it all disappears? To you, it feels like love. To them, it feels like standing on thin ice. One wrong step, and the whole thing might shatter. So they do the one thing that helps them breathe again. They step back. They disconnect. They retreat into distance. Not because you did something wrong, but because closeness feels like drowning in waters they never learned to swim. Think back to their earliest lessons. Love wasn't a safe haven. It was unpredictable. It was conditional. It was something they had to earn or hide from. When they cried, sometimes no one came. When they reached out, sometimes they were pushed away. When they showed their need, sometimes it was met with silence or even punishment. So their body adapted. It learned, don't trust closeness. It will hurt you. Stay strong. Stay hidden. Stay independent. And now, even in your arms, even with your patience, their body whispers the same old script. This is too much. This is not safe. You see, safety to them doesn't look like steady love. Safety looks like control. Safety looks like space. Safety looks like walls they can retreat behind when the fear becomes too heavy. And here's the paradox. When you give them love, they panic. When you give them distance, they feel alone. They live in a push and pull. That makes both of you exhausted, because what they want most is the very thing their body has been trained to fear. Imagine this. You're holding a bird in your hands. Not tightly, not roughly, just gently, with warmth. But the bird flaps, pecks, and fights to escape. Not because you're hurting it, but because freedom, even dangerous freedom, feels safer than the gentlest hold. This is what it's like to love an avoidant. You offer safety. They feel trapped. You loosen your grip. They feel abandoned. You try again. They pull away. And round it goes. Deep down, they crave what you're giving. They want it so badly. It aches inside them. But longing feels dangerous too, because to long for something means risking the pain of losing it. So when they sense themselves beginning to relax into you, their survival instincts slam the brakes. Don't go there. Don't depend. Don't trust. Don't need. Even if, on the surface, they want nothing more than to collapse safely into your love. This is why your kindness sometimes feels like rejection to them, not because your love is wrong, but because love itself was wired into them as unsafe. They don't yet know how to receive it. They don't yet know how to let it in, without fearing it will disappear. So they guard themselves. They test you. They pull back. They retreat into silence. Not because they don't feel, but because they feel too much. And because to them, safety has never been safe. But here's what you need to hear. This doesn't mean they can't change. It doesn't mean they're incapable of love. It doesn't mean they'll never let safety in. It means the very first step is recognizing that for them. Love feels like danger. Closeness feels like suffocation. Consistency feels like risk. And it will take time, patience, and a rewiring of the nervous system for their body to finally believe. This isn't a threat. This is home. Even when they can't admit it, even when they try to mask it, this is the truth of the avoidant. They don't feel safe, even in safe relationships, because safe is foreign. Safe is unknown. Safe is the very thing they were taught to run from. And so they run, even when all they want is to finally stay. They want to trust you. They want to let go. They want to finally feel the safety they never had. But every step toward you feels like stepping into fire. Because for them, safety doesn't live in the present. It lives in the past. And in the past, safety was a trick. It was their one moment. Gone the next. It was promised, then ripped away. It was something dangled, just far enough to crave, but never steady enough to rest in. So when you show up, when you give them the steadiness they've always needed, their body doesn't relax. It braces. It waits. It prepares for the drop. Because history has trained them, that closeness never lasts. And the brain doesn't forget what it had to do to survive. This is why they don't trust easy moments. Why they question your love, even when you prove it every day. To you, the silence after an argument might feel like space to breathe. To them, it feels like a cliff edge. To you, reassurance might seem simple. To them, it feels suspicious, like something is being hidden. To you, consistency feels natural. To them, it feels strange, like waiting for the rug to be pulled out. Even in safety, they prepare for loss. Even in love, they prepare for abandonment. Because the nervous system doesn't measure reality, it measures memory. And their memory tells them closeness isn't safe. Picture this. A soldier comes home from war. The war is over. The threat is gone. But every sound, every loud bang, every sudden movement makes their body flinch, their heart race, their muscles tighten, because the body doesn't care that the war is over. It remembers what it took to survive. This is the avoidant in love. You offer peace. Their body prepares for war. You offer comfort. Their mind braces for loss. You offer safety. Their heart whispers, "Don't believe it. It won't last." And so, without meaning to, they keep the shield up. They create distance. They pretend they're fine. They act strong, self-sufficient, untouchable, not because they don't need you, but because they fear needing you too much. If they lean in, what happens when you leave? If they rely on you, what happens when you change your mind? If they soften, what happens when safety turns to silence? To them, dependence equals danger. So they reject it, even while secretly craving it. This is why arguments with them feel so confusing. You're not just fighting over the issue at hand. You're fighting against ghosts. You're fighting against years of history that taught them not to trust love. So when they withdraw, it's not about you. It's about the child inside them, who once reached for comfort and found emptiness instead. And now, every time you move closer, that child stirs again, and their adult self pulls away to keep the pain from repeating. But here's the most heartbreaking part. Deep down, they know they're doing it. They know they push you away. They know they ruin moments that could bring them peace. And it hurts them. It confuses them. It makes them feel broken because they don't understand why their body betrays them, why love feels like loss, why comfort feels like danger. And so, shame grows. They hide even more. They convince themselves it's safer not to need, not to want, not to feel, even though what they want most is to rest in the safety you're already giving. But this is where the truth hides. The avoidant doesn't run because love is wrong. They run because love is foreign, because safety feels unnatural, because they've lived so long in survival. That peace feels like a trap. It's like a prisoner who finally walks free, but can't sleep without bars around them. Freedom feels unsafe. Closeness feels dangerous. Love feels unbearable. So they retreat to the only comfort they know: distance. Yet here's what most people miss: the fact that they struggle in safety isn't proof they don't care. It's proof that their love is tangled in fear, that their heart has been trained to see danger where there is none. And this paradox means something powerful. If safety feels unsafe to them, it's not because safety is wrong. It's because safety is new, and new things always awaken fear. So when you love an avoidant, remember this truth: their pullback isn't rejection, it's self-protection. Their silence isn't apathy, it's fear. Their distance isn't absence, it's the only way they know to quiet the alarms inside. And sometimes, the greatest act of love is to hold steady, not to chase, not to force, but to show again and again. Safety can stay. Love can stay. You can stay. Because what they need most is repetition. They need proof, not words. They need presence, not promises. Every time you show up, their nervous system learns. Every time you don't leave, their fear softens. Every time you offer calm, their heart risks opening just a little more. And this is how change begins, not in one grand gesture, but in the slow, steady rhythm of safety they've never known before. This is the tragedy of the avoidant. Even in the safest love, they feel unsafe. But it's also the hope, because with patience, with consistency, with love that doesn't run, their body can learn a new truth: that not everyone leaves, that not every hand lets go, that not every heart is a trap. And maybe, slowly, they'll discover that safety doesn't always mean danger, that sometimes safety is real, that sometimes safety stays. They want to believe you. They want to rest. They want to stop bracing for the moment you'll disappear. But their nervous system doesn't give them that luxury, because when love feels good, their body doesn't relax. It panics. Good feels dangerous. Peace feels temporary. Happiness feels suspicious. So even in the arms of someone safe, they are already preparing for the loss. This is why you'll notice something strange. The more present you are, the more distant they become. You're showing up with open hands. They're retreating with clenched fists. You're giving them consistency. They're giving you cold silence. Not because they don't want you, but because wanting you feels unbearable. To need someone means to risk losing them. And for the avoidant, that risk is the same as danger. So instead of leaning in, they step back. Instead of softening, they harden. Instead of staying open, they shut the door. Quietly, without explanation. It's not the relationship they fear. It's the feeling of dependence. Because dependence reminds them of a wound they swore they'd never feel again. As children, they depended on someone who didn't show up, or who showed up one day and disappeared the next, or who punished them for needing what every child should have. And so, they built a vow inside: never again, never need too much, never rely too deeply, never trust too fully. That vow still lives in them. And even when you're safe, their body keeps its word. So when you call and they don't answer, it's not always disinterest. It's fear. When they pull back after closeness, it's not rejection. It's survival. When they act like nothing touches them, it's not that they're cold. It's that they've learned. Feeling is dangerous. And yet, behind every wall, behind every silence, Behind every retreat, there is longing, a longing so deep they can't admit it, because admitting it would undo the armor they've spent a lifetime building. You may think they don't notice you, that they don't care, that your love falls into an empty space. But the truth is, they notice everything. They just can't show it. Every time you stay, their heart feels it. Every time you speak gently, their body remembers it. Every time you love them, without demand, their fear loosens its grip. But they won't tell you this, because words feel too risky, because acknowledging their need feels like giving you the power to hurt them. So they stay quiet. But inside, they are paying attention. This is why their silence is so misunderstood. Silence is not emptiness. It is protection. It is the only language they learn to survive. As children, speaking their need brought disappointment. Crying brought punishment. Wanting brought shame. So silence became safety. Distance became security. Self-reliance became identity. And even now, when they are with you, someone who would never punish them for needing love, their body reverts to the only script it has ever known. But here's the paradox. Even as they run, they crave being caught. Even as they hide, they hope you'll notice. Even as they push you away, they long for you to stay. It's not about testing you. It's about testing reality. They want to know, will safety still be here? If I disappear, will love still remain? If I retreat, will they still care? If I go silent? Because deep down, they believe safety is temporary, and the only way to prove otherwise is to see what happens when they pull back. And this is the heartbreak. You may feel unloved. You may feel invisible. You may feel like nothing you give ever reaches them. But in truth, your love is reaching them, just not in the way you expect. It's reaching the part of them that is still terrified, the part that doesn't know how to accept it, the part that wants safety, but doesn't believe it's possible. This is why patience matters. Not the kind of patience that tolerates mistreatment, but the kind that understands. Healing takes time, because love doesn't erase fear. It slowly rewires it. Every consistent gesture teaches their nervous system this love is not leaving. Every calm response teaches their heart this safety is real. Every moment of presence teaches their soul not everyone disappears. And slowly, what once felt unbearable begins to feel tolerable. What once felt foreign begins to feel familiar. What once felt unsafe begins to feel like home. But here's the truth. You also need to hear. You cannot love the fear out of them. You cannot force safety into their nervous system. You cannot prove enough, reassure enough, or sacrifice enough to make them stay open. Because healing isn't passive. It requires their choice, their willingness, their courage. And until they decide to turn inward, to face the fear, to dismantle the vow they made long ago, no amount of your love will rewrite the script for them. So your role is not to fix them. Your role is not to save them. Your role is to love clearly, without losing yourself, to show what safety looks like, to live in truth, not in fear, to stay open, without collapsing when they close. Because the paradox is this: the more you lose yourself trying to prove your love, the less safe you feel to them. But the more you stay grounded, the more you embody calm, the more you hold steady, the more their nervous system begins to trust. Because in the end, safety is not a promise. It is a pattern. It is a rhythm. It is the steady beat of love that doesn't vanish. And when the avoidant finally begins to feel it, not as words, but as lived reality, their fear begins to loosen. It may take time. It may take missteps. It may take patience beyond what feels fair. But little by little, moment by moment, their heart learns. Safety is not a trick. Safety can be trusted. Safety can stay. They begin to notice it slowly, almost against their will. That maybe, just maybe, this love is different. Because every time they retreat, you don't chase with panic. You don't demand with anger. You don't shame with words. Instead, you remain steady. You remain present. You remain open. And to a nervous system that expects abandonment, this is unsettling. Not because it's wrong, but because it's unfamiliar. See, their body doesn't measure safety by what feels good. It measures safety by what feels predictable. Chaos can feel safer than calm. If chaos is what they grew up with, distance can feel safer than closeness. If closeness once meant pain, so when you give them consistency, their body doesn't immediately relax. It resists. It fights. It pushes back because it's waiting for the catch. It's waiting for the mask to drop. It's waiting for you to be like everyone else. And this is the cruel paradox of healing. The very thing they long for, to rest in love, is the very thing they resist most fiercely. Because to rest means to surrender control, and to surrender control means to risk being shattered. So instead of resting, they brace. Instead of softening, they tense. Instead of trusting, they prepare. And here's what most people don't see. When the avoidant pulls away, it's not because they don't feel. It's because they feel too much. When they go silent, it's not because nothing is happening inside. It's because too much is happening inside. When they shut down, it's not numbness. It's overload. Their nervous system is overwhelmed by the very thing they've always longed for. So they retreat, not to escape you, but to calm themselves, not to punish you, but to survive the storm inside. This is why you'll see contradictions. One moment, they're laughing with you. The next, they're distant and distracted. One day, they're affectionate and warm. The next, they're cold and withdrawn. It's not because their love is fake. It's because their fear is real. Their body is constantly flipping between hope and defense, between desire and dread, between leaning in and running away. And yet, there's another truth here. Each time they retreat and return, something small shifts. The nervous system learns through repetition, through experience, through lived reality. Every time they pull back and discover you're still there, their body updates the story. Every time they expect rejection and find patience instead, the old script loses power. Every time they risk a little openness and see that it doesn't end in disaster, trust grows. Slowly, quietly, but it grows. This is why safety can't be forced. It must be lived. You can't convince someone they are safe. You can only show it again and again until their body begins to believe it. And this is the long road of loving an avoidant. It's not instant. It's not linear. It's not easy. It is 2 steps forward, 1 step back, moments of connection, followed by silence, bursts of closeness, followed by withdrawal. It is patience tested. It is hope stretched. It is love that learns endurance. But here's the gift hidden inside. If they stay, if they keep showing up, if they begin to let love land, even in fragments, something miraculous begins. Their nervous system starts to heal because the body that once learned love is danger is now learning love can be safe. The heart that once swore never again is now whispering, maybe this time. And the soul that once hid behind walls of steel is now daring to step into the open. This is why your steadiness matters. Not because you can heal them, but because you can help create the space where healing becomes possible. Because the truth is, love is not a cure. But love is the soil where new roots can grow, roots of trust, roots of safety, roots of belonging. And when those roots deepen, the walls don't need to stay so high. The silence doesn't need to stay so long. The distance doesn't need to stay so wide. But let me say this again, because it matters. You are not responsible for their healing. You cannot carry their fear for them. You cannot tear down their walls for them. You cannot pour enough love into them to make them believe what they don't choose to believe. Your role is not savior. Your role is presence. Your role is to offer love freely, without abandoning yourself in the process, to remain open, without chasing, to stay steady, without collapsing, because paradoxically, it's not self-sacrifice that heals them. It's your wholeness. When you remain whole, you show them love is not a trap. When you remain grounded, you show them closeness is not chaos. When you remain true, you show them safety can last. And slowly, through your steadiness, their nervous system learns. Not all intimacy is danger. Not all love disappears. Not all safety betrays. But here's the deepest truth. Even in a safe relationship, the avoidant may never feel fully safe until they choose to heal the root. Because safety on the outside can only go so far. If fear on the inside still runs the show, you can build a sanctuary around them. But if their heart still believes, danger lives in closeness, they will still brace. They will still retreat. They will still resist. And this is why their healing must come from within. Your love can open the door, but only they can walk through it. Even when love is safe, the avoidant lives with echoes. Echoes of nights they were unheard. Echoes of moments they were dismissed. Echoes of wounds too deep for words. Those echoes don't vanish just because someone loves them well. They linger. They whisper. They haunt. And sometimes, the safest love feels threatening because it brings the echoes to the surface. See, when love is distant, the avoidant can hide. They can stay behind walls. They can keep the pain buried. But when love is steady, when it doesn't leave, when it stays, the walls don't work anymore. The closeness shines a light on everything they've tucked away. The child inside who learned, no one comes when I cry. The teenager who swore, I'll never need anyone again. The adult who whispers, keep them far enough to survive. Safe love exposes all of this, not to harm, but to heal, but to the avoidant. Healing feels like danger. So what do? They push, they retreat, they minimize. Because if they admit the love is safe, they must also admit that their walls are not protection anymore. They are prison bars. And that realization terrifies them because it means the pain they've been avoiding isn't gone. It's simply waiting. And to face it feels unbearable. This is why the avoidant may sabotage. They pick fights when things are calm. They disappear when things are close. They withdraw when affection deepens. Not because they want to lose you, but because losing you on their own terms feels safer than risking losing you by surprise. They would rather control the exit than risk being left behind. And so, ironically, they destroy the very safety they crave. But here's where hope lives. The avoidant doesn't sabotage because love doesn't matter. They sabotage because love matters too much. The fear is loud, precisely because the heart is invested. The walls are high, precisely because the longing is deep. And the paradox of the avoidant is this. They don't feel safe, even in safe relationships, until they discover that safety is not the absence of fear. It's the courage to stay, even while afraid. Safety is not found in perfection. It's found in presence, not in love without conflict, but in love that endures conflict, not in relationships without fear, But in relationships that walk through fear, the avoidant doesn't need a flawless partner. They need a steady one, someone who won't collapse when they retreat, someone who won't chase when they panic, someone who stands their ground with love and clarity, because in that steadiness, their body begins to believe. Maybe closeness is survivable. Maybe intimacy is possible. Maybe safety is real. But here's the truth most don't want to face. Even the most patient partner cannot erase the avoidance fear, because safety is not something that can be gifted. It is something that must be built inside. The avoidant must turn inward. They must face the echoes. They must grieve what was lost. They must soothe the child that was once abandoned. And this is the hardest step, because for them, healing feels like the very thing they've spent a lifetime avoiding. Yet when they take it, everything changes, because once they learn to regulate their fear, closeness no longer feels suffocating. Once they learn to comfort their own wounds, love no longer feels dangerous. Once they learn to trust themselves, trusting another becomes possible. And then, for the first time, a safe relationship feels truly safe. Not because the partner made it so, but because the avoidant allowed it to be so. This is why your role matters, but has limits. You can be a mirror of steadiness. You can be a lighthouse in the storm. You can show that love can remain, but you cannot walk into their shadows for them. You cannot dismantle their walls for them. You cannot heal their fear for them. Healing is a choice, one only they can make. So where does that leave you? It leaves you with clarity. Clarity that their fear is not your failure. Clarity that their retreat is not your unworthiness. Clarity that their distance is not proof you're unlovable. It leaves you with choice. The choice to love steadily, but not abandon yourself. The choice to stay, but not lose your boundaries. The choice to hope, but not hang your worth on their ability to heal. And it leaves you with power, the power to recognize that true safety is not just something you offer them, it's something you deserve too. Because love is not safe when only one nervous system rests. Love is not safe when only one person can exhale. Love is not safe if it costs you your wholeness. The avoidant must learn this truth. But so must you, because the greatest gift you can give, both to them and to yourself, is this: to remain whole, even while loving someone who is learning to be. And if you are someone who loves an avoidant, hear this: your patience is not wasted. Your steadiness is not unnoticed. Your love is not in vain. Even if they don't say it, even if they don't show it, even if they resist it, deep down, they feel it. Deep down, they know it. Deep down, it is rewriting their story. Slowly, quietly, day by day. And if you are the avoidant, hear this too. You are not broken. You are not cold. You are not incapable of love. You are scared. You are protecting. You are surviving. But survival is not living. And hiding is not freedom. And walls are not home. You deserve a love that doesn't just feel survivable, but safe. You deserve a closeness that doesn't suffocate, but sustains. You deserve a bond where your body can finally exhale. And that begins not with running from fear, but with facing it. Because only when you face the echoes can you silence them. Only when you touch the wounds can they heal. Only when you let love in can it stay. So here is the truth that remains. Even in safe relationships, the avoidant doesn't feel safe until they allow safety inside. But when they do, love stops being a battlefield, connection stops being a trap, and intimacy stops being a threat. And what remains is what they always longed for: a love that is steady, a closeness that is safe, a home where the nervous system rests, a bond where both hearts can stay.